Hi guys, welcome back to the Day Sports Podcast, and today, welcome back to episode 5. Unfortunately, I haven't got a guest today, but fear not, I'm still here. And I'm still going. Here to wrap up a big week of sport, including US Open, NRL, and the Premier League's back. I think we're gonna start with the US Open. Bryson DeChambeau wins his first major at Winged Foot, winning at a total of 6 under par, 6 shots ahead of second Matthew Wolff, and the only player in the field to be under par. US Open known for its tough conditions, and that's why I really enjoy it. You get to see players really struggle, and they're just not making birdies all the time, and it's kind of like what it's like for us to play, for us amateurs to play. So it's good to see. But Bryson, yeah, not my favourite golfer, not many people's favourite golfer, but I think he might have won a few fans over. Didn't shoot over par one day of the week. Yeah, it was pretty interesting championship. Mainly, just see a lot of players struggle. Yeah, I think the cut line was about eight over, and I think we had a few Aussies in there. Adam Scott, Jason Day, Cameron Smith, Lucas Herbert. He played pretty well. Yeah, but Bryson winning his first major, obviously massive off the tee, and just picking out Matthew Wolff, who kind of faded away on that last day. Bryson, I think he could go on and win, I'd say, 3 or 4 more majors, depending on whether he maintains his claim as the longest hitter on tour. And I think he's been looking with his brand to I think Cobra he's with, to increase driver length in terms of shaft and stuff like that, to maybe look at hit it around 370 stock, which is pretty crazy to think. About 7 or 8 years ago, like, if you're considered a long hitter if you hit it around 300. So yeah, pretty crazy. I love the US Open due to its tough conditions, and my favourite golfing story comes from the US Open. Tiger Woods in 2000, obviously, probably the best golfer we've ever seen, and him not only best golfer I've ever seen, the best duo in terms of sport, I think we'll see, is Tiger Woods and Steve Williams, his caddy from New Zealand, and for a long time, or might still have been, the highest paid New Zealand athlete, which is pretty crazy, and that's all credit to Tiger and him for what they've done. Yeah, so this comes at 2000 at Pebble Beach, which is course in California, which is typically always on the US Open roster, and it's a pretty picturesque course right on the ocean. So basically, Tiger in 2000, he plays the round, and then there's a rain delay, so the day gets abandoned, and on that day they finish on the 13th hole, and they have to come back the next day to finish their round. So then, with golf, you only can take the balls you have are only the balls you're allowed to use on the course. You can't use any other balls, and you can't just go get some more balls from somewhere mid-round if you lose all your balls. So typically, Stevie Williams tells a story, Tiger's caddy, and he says, so he usually carries 6 balls for the round, and considering they only start on the 13th hole, it's they've only got 14, 15, 16, 17, 6 holes to play. So it should be fine. 6 balls. So in the morning and in the night, Tiger takes 3 balls from his bag in the hotel room, and he practices putting. And Tiger doesn't put the 3 balls out of the 6 back in the bag. So Stevie doesn't check where the balls are or how many balls he's got in the bag. So he just takes the bag and goes into the tee, and they start on the 13th at the US Open. And then as they're starting the round, Steve Williams puts his hand into the bag, and he just starts thinking, oh, there's not as balls as usual, or something's wrong. So he looks in. He's only got 3 balls left. He's thinking, yeah, that's fine. Only 3 balls, 6 holes. That should be fine with probably the best player of all time. They play the 13th hole, and he hits his drive into the rough and kind of scuffs the ball out and gets it over the green into the rough, and chips it onto the green and kind of scuffs the ball with his sand wedge. So right now Tiger doesn't know that he's only got 3 balls. So Tiger chucks one to a kid in the crowd, and Steve Williams is kind of just thinking, all right, 2 balls, it's fine. He can't take it off a kid in the crowd. But the cool thing is the interesting part of the story is that he can't tell Tiger, oh, we've got 2 balls, because if you tell someone you got 2 balls left, they start just getting nervous, and you can't play your normal game because you're just trying to be protective, and you just got a lot of nervous energy if you say, oh, hey, by the way, we've only got 2 balls, so don't hit one out of bounds, or don't break a ball or something like that. So Stevie hasn't told him. So then he's got the lead at 9 under at this US Open, and then they get to the 18th tee. And if you know the 18th tee at Pebble Beach, it's just the ocean all the way along the left, and it's a long par 5 down. So Tiger tees it up and hits a ball way left into the ocean. So they're on the 18th tee, lead in the US Open. They've only got 1 ball left. And Stevie Williams is trying to... Well, he still can't say, oh, that's the last ball we've got. He's just trying to tell Tiger that, oh, take a different club, hit an iron, get it down in the middle of the fairway, and just don't worry about it. And then Tiger tells Steve Williams, no, it's all right. I'm just going to hit driver again. I'm just going to hit it. I'm going to hit it. Don't worry about it. And then Stevie's trying to beg with him, oh, no, don't worry. Just hit an iron. You've got a lead in the US Open. So Tiger, anyway, still takes driver and then hits it onto the fairway. And then they finish the hole. And then obviously after Steve Williams tells Tiger they only had 1 ball left, which is kind of crazy because if they ran out of balls, Tiger would have lost the tournament, and probably Steve Williams would not. You wouldn't know who he is pretty much because he would have lost his job in 2000. That's probably my favourite golf story of all time. Really interesting to know that Tiger could have been one ball away from losing US Open just because he forgot to put balls back in and the caddy didn't check, which is pretty unreal. But anyway, Tiger goes on to win that tournament, scoring the lowest US Open score in relation to par, I think, which is, all unreal, and all credit to Tiger. 1 more major left this year because the British Open got cancelled, and it's the Masters. Tiger defending his crown. I think in terms of who could win, Bryson, obviously, if he continues this kind of form with his drives, he could definitely reduce some of those holes to just wedges in. But in saying that, there's a lot of it's not the longest golf course, obviously, Augusta National, and there's a lot of holes where you kind of gotta play a lot for placement. I think particularly 13, you can't go long. You gotta play a hard draw around the trees, which is really important to play there. 15, you can't go left. You gotta just play it on the right somewhere. And there's many holes like that where really driving distance doesn't make a difference. And we see the past few winners, they're not all long hitters. Tiger Woods, year 4, Patrick Reed, Jordan Spieth, he's not particularly long. Sergio's not long either. So you definitely don't need to be long to win. So I think you just got to be a good putter to win there. And I think we'll see Tiger. I think he'll play well there. He always plays well there. Rory, I think Rory, this is probably his last chance to complete the Grand Slam, win that Masters, to get all 4 majors under his belt. And I think he's been playing pretty good. He played fairly well during this US Open, 2 rounds under par, but he doesn't really piece it all together. a 76 and a 75 to taken a tied 8th. But I think if his putting especially is on during Augusta, I think he would be my favourite to win, because I think he wants it the most as well, because he choked there in 2011, giving away a 5-shot lead with 10 holes to play, shooting an 81 in the final round. So I think Rory is my tip to win the Masters, and I think, when is that Masters? 2020. In November, so just over a month and a bit. So be interesting to see, but these days it's very hard to predict. That pretty much anyone in the top 50, I'd say, could win a major. They're all that good these days. So yeah, I think moving on to the NRL. Round 19, second last round, and we see Penrith seal up the minor premiership. They have been the best team all year and thoroughly deserved it. And then the top 8 sewed up. They were sewed up last week, and big movement down the bottom. And I think that's where we'll start with the game on Thursday night. Bulldogs beating the Broncos. Beating the Rabbitohs to overtake the Broncos. Beating the Rabbitohs 26-16. A bit of controversy in this game. Bulldogs great early, and they got out to a 20-0 lead. But then with about 10 minutes to go, Jackson Paulo dives over. Looks like a pretty routine try, and so they award the try. No one touches him. Goes over the line, and as they look in the replay, it says Jackson Paulo's foot's gone out, and I think it's just it started a bad weekend of refereeing that moment. Also with the Jaden Lewis sin bin as well, which I don't think was a sin bin. I think I'll start with the try. The game is already fast enough, and we want the best game possible, no mistakes, and yet I don't understand why the referees, the bunker, obviously there's plenty of time between that try being awarded and getting the conversion taken, and also you can change decisions whether it's a line dropout or in goal, but you can't change if it's try, which I find absolutely stupid, because if Rabbitohs come back and win that game by a try, it's literally robbed the Bulldogs of a win there, and that would have not got them off the bottom of the ladder. Thankfully they didn't, but the bunker, they've looked at it on the angles. There's about 10 angles before they've Adam Reynolds had tried to attempt that conversion, and they could have easily taken that try off and gone for the 20-metre tap, but they didn't, and it's just frustrating to see that kind of stuff. Jane saw a sin bin. He got done for a shoulder charge and contact to the head. I think we're getting a bit soft here. Now, if that's a sin bin, I initially didn't even think that was a penalty. I can understand, fine, penalty, maybe shoulder charge, but barely a shoulder charge, and just got done with a good shot, really, Lachlan Lewis. And the penalty wasn't awarded until he got hurt, and I think that's where a lot of problems started rising, especially with stuff like grapple tackles and stuff like that, and shoulder charge. You sometimes see a lot of the penalties or the amount of time players get given in the judiciary based on the injuries of the tackle or whatever, not what the tackle was, which is it's again frustrating to see, because he barely contacted with the head, and the head was maybe contacted as a result of his shoulder dropping into his shoulders after getting hit that hard. So I don't think that should have been a penalty at all, realistically. I could understand a penalty, sure, but not a sin bin at all. Rabbitohs, looked pretty dead during that whole game. No attacking flair, and credit to the Bulldogs. They defended well, and they were pretty good in attack. When they looked very threatening as every time they had the ball, so it was good signs for them moving into next year. Moving on to the second game on Friday night, Panthers beating the Cowboys 32-12 to seal the minor premiership up in Townsville. Just a pretty solid performance from Penrith. Nothing really to worry about, and really poor signs for the Cowboys. Yeah, they are missing a few players, and Taumalolo coming off the bench. Yeah, I'm not sure where the Cowboys go, and they've got their coaching situation. I think it's Dean Pay. Sorry, not Dean Pay. Todd Payten, who's going to go there from the Warriors. Just not much. Just a poor season for the Cowboys, and congrats to Penrith for wrapping it up. I think they're going to give a few players a rest this week, unless they want to try to keep that run going. 14 in a row. I think they only lost to Parramatta early in the season, which again they also should have won with 15 minutes to go, with where poor defence and a bit of magic from Parramatta let Penrith down. But overall, being the best side in comp, and it's on to finals now for them. Most likely they'll be playing Parramatta, and looking at that, Parramatta, the second game on Friday night, 26-12 over the Broncos. Not the most convincing performance, but at least there was an improvement in terms of attack. There was a bit of attacking spark. Yes, they're versing the Broncos, which are the worst defensive team in the comp by far. But I think it's not their year. Obviously not going to be their year, and I think they're going to struggle because they will be, if they lose to Penrith, which they most likely will. They should be playing Raiders, who seal up fifth in that second matchup, elimination final, which I don't think they win. I think Raiders, if Parramatta lose to Tigers this week anyway and Raiders win, Parramatta fall out the 4. Interesting times for them in terms of what they're going to do. No, I think losing Dylan Brown a few weeks ago, I think I think I'll say he's been one of probably their best player, and with Mitchell Moses and Jay Field, is it? Yeah, Jay Field, who's been replacing Dylan Brown. Jay Field, he's alright, he's good talent, but he hasn't played many games, and there's not much he has provided, especially defensively as well. He's been pretty poor. It's just not good signs for Parramatta going to the final. Broncos, most likely going to get the wooden spoon now after that game. Just not much to say about them, really. They've been poor. I saw a graphic on NRL on 9. I'll put it on the screen. That the top 8 in the last 8 weeks, and Parramatta, they're sitting at 8th spot. The big move is the Titans, who are 7th. If you're just going off the last 8 weeks, yeah. So in the last 8 weeks, Penrith obviously going perfect, 16 points. Roosters and Storm both on 14 points, and pretty much can't even split them on differential. 5-point difference in differential. Rabbitohs and Raiders, that's pretty reflective. Knights, Titans, and Eels all tied on 10 points. And the amazing thing to see there is Eels on negative differential in top 8. Warriors, just one win behind them on the 8 points, and that could have gone either way depending on the match they had. So realistically, it's pretty reflective of the Eels' form. And also, Sharks also about to make history as only team in the comp not to beat a top 8 side this season and also get into the top 8. Yes, they've had 6 less games, 20 round season, 26 rounds is usually. But even with all the injuries, I don't think they would have been likely to beat any of the top 8 teams, even Parramatta at this rate. Yeah, I think the looking at the history, but the good sign, the only teams when it was the top 5 and top 4 those days in the finals, every team that didn't win outside the top 4 and top 5 in that final series kind of thing, who made it in there and didn't beat a side above them, they all went on to win the premiership that year. It would be pretty interesting if Sharkies go on to win the premiership. I don't think they are gonna, and also losing Sean Johnson on the weekend, which is just probably the only good player that's come out the last of this whole season. Yeah, they're not going to threaten the 8. I think it's going to be a walk-on game for that 5th spot. They'll just walk to the next round, basically. Moving on, Saturday's first game, 42-24. The Titans absolutely stomping Manly, and again, Tom Trbojevic injured. However, expects to be fit for Origin, and Freddie already named him on their show as the first man in for the team. I think AJ Brimson, I think he's got to be in the Origin 17. And I think you can put him on the wing with that pace he's got. He's probably, I'd say, close to the most informed fullback right now in the competition. And it's what the Titans were missing in the first half of the year, really. I think Titans, if they just put a few more games together, like just a bit earlier, they're sitting 9th right now. I'd say if they could have been, maybe they could have upset a Sharks, upset a Newcastle during that really bad period they had. They'd be in the top 8, and I think with it that times it only can go up for them. Obviously Tino, Herman SASA, and who else is going? Dave Fafita. How could I? Yeah, no, he's the least important out of those 3. No, I'm joking. Yeah, obviously those 3 straining up in their forward pack, and I think Jamal Fogarty's been a bit of a unveiling for the Titans. He is kind of that rock solid half that you Ash Taylor kind of needed, where it frees up Ash a bit and he can play his own game, which is good to see. And so they've kind of sorted out their spine, and depending on maybe the Melbourne Cam Smith situation, they could poach maybe one of those hookers, and I think they're a red hot side, and I reckon they're gonna make the 8 and do very well next year. Definitely overtake maybe teams like Sharks and it's hard to say. Pretty much changes every year. I mean, Panthers. I mean, they came 11th last year, and they're now top of the table. So it's hard to say, but I think Titans, they're on good track for next year, especially Manly. I mean, very poor all season. Daly Cherry Evans. Wow, he's just extremely poor. Especially since he's going to be Queensland halfback. It's very worrying signs for Queensland, especially looking at the way he played that game. You'd think Tom Trbojevic back. You couldn't really make a decision on Daly without no Turbo, because it's hard to really carry a team on your own. But then he has been playing that bad all season, and I think that's why he's been a bit flying under the radar since Turbo's not there. But with Turbo coming back and him still performing pretty disappointingly, it just shows where his form's at been all year. And it worrying signs for Manly. I think then with also Adam Fanua-Blake, he's gone. Unfollowed Manly Seagulls on Twitter, and he's going to be he followed the Warriors. So I think Gus Gould, he's done a bit of magic there and got him to the Warriors, which is also fantastic signs for the Warriors next year. It's going to be fantastic season next year. A lot of lower clubs, Titans, Warriors, doing a lot of recruiting. Bulldogs, I think they could be a real jumper. Depends on their off-season recruiting. I think they could really make a push for the 8 next season, but it's also hard to put out one of those top teams. So it'll be interesting to see, just based on form and stuff like that. Moving on to the second game on Saturday. My boys, the Melbourne Storm, beating the Tigers 50-22. Not a typical Storm performance in terms of great defence and low scoring, just grinding out matches. But I think this is fantastic signs for Melbourne, because we know that Melbourne can do it defensively any day of the week. And at the beginning of this year, I was thinking in the first few rounds, especially after that Canberra match where we lost right after the COVID break, that our attack looks extremely flat. And even last year, our attack looked extremely, extremely flat. And there was no spark. And I think that left edge, especially Paps, Adokar, Munster, and Olam, they've really fine-tuned their attack, and they're really putting on good set plays. And I'm really pleased to see Storm put on points, because usually, I think in the last 2 years especially, they've been winning games on their defence. And yes, defence wins titles and stuff like that, but you also look at the Roosters, who put on pretty much close to 40 points every week. And they've been the best side in the last 3 years. It's great signs for Storm, because great signs for. I thought their problem was scoring points coming into the year, and Cameron Munster, Cameron Smith, when Cameron controls the game and lets Munster just run the ball, I think that's when Storm looked the most dangerous. And Papa, not even playing on the weekend, but Nico Hines done a good job there. And the left side of Melbourne Storm, I think, probably the best left side in the comp right now. Great exchange between Bellamy and Smith. As Cameron Smith passed Bellamy's try scoring record. However, did play about 3 times more games, but he's passed him. He's passed Bellamy, and I think it's good to see Bellamy a bit loose, and I think it's pretty reflective on how Melbourne Storm are travelling. They're pretty happy and they're pretty chill, and I think when you see Craig Bellamy doing those kind of things, it's good to see and good signs for the Melbourne Storm. Tigers, it's pretty poor that they can just go in and out for lapses of the game. Looking at the Tigers, it's just pretty poor. In terms of, you'd rather them get beat 50-0 rather than 50-22, because 50-22, you can kind of see them. They can do it. They can, for that 10-15 minutes in the first half in the middle and 10-15 minutes in the second half in the middle. They were matching with the Storm and they're doing it, and you're just wondering why they can't do that for 80 minutes. Wondering what they're going to do next year with the Harry Grant situation, but that'll tell in time. I don't think Tigers are looking good for next season as well. A few club problems in terms of Benji leaving from just no notice and all the trouble behind the scenes. I think they're going to do very poorly next season. I think my tip is they're going to take the spoon next season. Yeah. No, I think Broncos will bounce back, and I think Cowboys will bounce back, and I think Tigers is my prediction to get the spoon next season. Moving on to the last game, Roosters beating the Sharks 34-18. Almost 303rd game, most for any Rooster. It was good to see Orvo, and he grabbed a double as well. Arrested a fair few people. Tedesco was arrested, I think. Takayaho was arrested. Let me just check that. Yeah, Takayaho was arrested and hitting form at the right time for the Roosters. And I think going into finals, obviously, the winner's going to come out of the second and third. I think Melbourne and Roosters, they'll play each other in the first game most likely. Obviously, we know that they won't play them again unless they make it to the grand final. Yeah, I think the winners of the comp's going to come out of Storm and Roosters, and I think Roosters could be that team to do the three-peat. But I think the main difference this year is Storm with their attack, and I think beating the Roosters twice this year, especially no Smith, no Munster in that one game. Jerome Hughes, I think, has been Storm's revelation this year. He's been put in at his own in that number 7 jumper, and he's looked fantastic. I think he's been one of the best halfbacks of the year. He looks like he can score a try every game, which is great to see. He's got great footwork. Obviously, naturally a fullback, but his kicking game's been fantastic all year as well. So credit to Bellamy for developing another good half there. Sharkies, Sean Johnson injury, they're going to struggle coming into the finals. And I think just a big game this week against the Raiders, just to see what they're going to be like in the finals. But I think that game is going to be replayed 2 weeks in a row. Raiders v Sharks. So interesting to see what's going to go on there. The Sharkies and their half situation especially. I think Wade Graham might jump into that 6 jumper and Connor Tracy might go into number 7. Sunday's game, Raiders, being the Warriors 26-14. It was pretty even in the first half, I'd say. Sammy Valimi scoring that run against the run of play, a full field try. Peter Hickory's been fantastic for the Warriors this year, and I think it's fantastic signs for the Warriors because usually kind of ride off that game, and they were pretty much in that game for about, I'd say, a good 60 minutes until that Kotrick try. It was very, very even game, and that was in the last, that was in the 72nd minute, so fantastic signs for the Warriors. In terms of next year, Raiders, a bit slow in that first half, and obviously Jack Ryan got a sin bin. Ricky Stewart with a little blow up. The water bottle went about 50 rows down. But in terms of Raiders going into next week, the week after into finals, should be fine beating the Sharkies, and I think they are more deservedly who should be in 4th rather than the Parramatta Eels. So a lot relies on this weekend for that top 4 spot. Raiders should roll Sharkies, and it'll be interesting if Tigers can bounce back and beat Para. I don't think they can. I think Para should win that game, so they'll wrap up that 4th spot. I think it'll be a bit of a disaster if Para can't win that game, considering they were first for a good chunk of the year until they lost to... even after they lost to Roosters, they were still first. I think they lost to Dragons. Yes, they lost to Dragons, and I think that's where the kind of form dip started. Week before, they just beat the Sharkies in a tough one. So I think, yeah, it'll be pretty disappointing as Paras. They'll lead the comp for, say, a good 8-9 weeks, or maybe even from the beginning, but yeah, be devastating for Para to fall out top 4. Moving on to the last game, Newcastle putting 42 on the Dragons. Pretty good effort from Newcastle. Dragons just looked extremely poor. Callum Ponga back to his best. He was fantastic in that game. I think it's a fantastic sign for Queensland coming to Origin, especially as they don't really have much in terms of depth and wingers, and they've pretty much got the spine. Even that David Trevor Evans is playing very poor. I think both teams get to bring in a 27-man squad, and I think Jamal Fogarty could be a smoky, or they could play Ben Hunt into that 7 and Harry Grant at 9. Not sure what they're going to do there, but yeah, it'll be interesting to see. It's great to see when Callum Ponga's playing well. I think everyone enjoys Callum Ponga playing well because he's probably, for me, the most exciting player in the comp. And yeah, it just seems good bloke as well. So it's always great to see him do well. I really liked Chris Randall in that number 9 role. He ran the ball well. I think when Kurtman comes back for his finals, I think he should jump in that 6 role. I know they've had problems with the number 9 spot and who's jumping in, but I think I'd rather Man at 6, because that's where they were playing their best footy when he was alongside Mitchell Pearce early in that year, and I think Chris Randall should go 9. He played very well, and if they want to really go deep in the finals, especially win that first game against Rabbitohs, they've really got to. Mitch Pearce, I reckon, really has to step up. I think Callum Ponga has shown that he can step up and win the game on his own, but Mitch Pearce, he's been extremely quiet after being probably, I'd say, one of the better halfbacks in the last year and a bit. Yeah, he's been very quiet in the last 10 weeks or so, he's really got to step up. Dragons, I know Clune's injured, but again, I don't like seeing Ben Hunt in that 7 role. And Cam McInnes obviously coming in. I know they had the injury, but yeah, it's just... It'll be interesting for Anthony Griffin to watch that game and see what he can work on for next year, because they were extremely poor going in that game. Let's move on to the Premier League. It's back. Second week of the Premier League, and a few major results. Yet to see a draw in the Premier League in the first 2 weeks of play, which is pretty interesting to see. Match week 2. Everton beating West Brom 5-2. James Rodriguez playing outstanding, getting an assist, 2 assists, I think. Yeah, 2 assists and a goal. And Dom Calvert-Lewin bagging a hat-trick. Great signs for Everton looking at their last 2 games. Beating Spurs in the first game, and though West Ham did have a red card, they got it late in the first half. It's fantastic signs for Everton. I think they could really make a surge for the top 8, especially in top 6, if James Rodriguez keeps playing the way he does. Leeds, big win for them, 4-3 over newly promoted Fulham. Both of them newly promoted. Just good signs for Leeds. Paddy Bamford scoring and Costa grabbing a double. I think Leeds, out of all the teams who had been promoted, so Leeds, Fulham, and oh my gosh, just had a mental blank. West Brom just come up. I think they're going to be the leading team out of those bottom 3. Third game, this is where a big upset happened. Crystal Palace beating United 3-1. I don't think we can read too much into this game. First game of the season, no preseason for Manchester United. And first game back for them. Stats pretty still heavily favoured in United, but saying that, Palace did deserve to win that game with the chances they created. 17 shots to 14 shots, United to Palace, and then 4 shots on target, United 5 shots on target. I do like Martial at that striker role with Rashford on the left. I think it's just a one-off game for United. I think they should do well this season, and it's good to see Crystal Palace, Wilfried Zaha grabbing a double, and Andros Townsend getting that early goal. Good signs for Crystal Palace, but I don't think we can read too much into that in terms of United's performance for the rest of the year. So Arsenal 2-1 over West Ham, continuing the streak. Arsenal did play well. In terms of, they did rally a bit of a storm in that first half.
with West Ham. They had plenty of shots and plenty of possession in that first half, West Ham, but then they rallied in that second half, and really it was a pretty even game, I'd say, and Nikita breaking it open at 85th minute to win the game for Arsenal. Good chance for Arsenal, and I don't think it's that bad chance for West Ham either. They really could have, that game could have really gone either way, and Arsenal credited them. They put it together. Moving on to Sunday's early game, Tottenham winning 5-2 against Southampton. Danny Ings scoring a double for Southampton, but the main story, Son Heung-min scoring 4 goals, Harry Kane grabbing 4 assists as well, and a goal for himself at the end there, 82nd minute. Funny thing is, they scored. Tottenham scored 5 goals. They had 6 shots on target, and 9 shots in total. Son Heung-min, he was absolutely clinical. I think probably one of the most underrated footballers on the planet. I think he would be a fantastic striker at most clubs, and but he's sitting behind Harry Kane, and that duo, I think, is going to be very good, especially with their new signing Gareth Bale. Extremely big fan of Gareth Bale. I think he'll play on the right side there and use his left foot. That front three probably might be one of the best front threes Spurs have had for a while. Kane, Son, and Gareth Bale. I think that'll be a force to reckon with this year. Not much to say for Southampton. I'd say they got pretty unlucky in terms of that scoreline. I think it could have been a lot closer. I think it could have been more of a 3-2 or maybe even a 4-3 kind of match. They still didn't really deserve to win, but in terms of scoreline, I think that was really reflective of how they played. Moving on to the next game, Newcastle beating Brighton. Newcastle extremely poor. Didn't look likely at all scoring. Brighton credited them, put their chances away early, and good chance for Brighton.
Moving on to the big game on Monday. Chelsea versus Liverpool. Liverpool winning 2-0. Christensen with a red card just before half-time, and Sadio Mane bagging a double within 5 minutes. Jorginho missing a penalty, saved well by Alisson, but still I think Liverpool deserved to win. They had more of the ball and more real chances compared to Chelsea. But yeah, I think still early days to suggest who's going to do what, especially Chelsea and Tino Werner. He hasn't delivered per se, but it's only been 2 games for him in the Premier League, and I think Havertz as well. They're going to take time to gel into the Premier League. Because it's completely different to any other league in the world. It's competitive pretty much every week. There's no free games, I'd say, in the Premier League. So yeah, it's going to take time for them to adjust. Leicester winning 4-2 over Burnley. Harvey Barnes opening the scoring, and it was a pretty even game, and not a Burnley game, I'd say. Usually when you see Burnley play, they're pretty park the bus kind of football, and they sit back a lot, but credit them, went forward, and a lot of shots in this match. Great attacking from both teams, I'd say. But yeah, Leicester looking good again. I think they prove to everyone that every year they keep improving, even when they don't really have the squad, and they even I'd say last year they proved it. They didn't really have the squad, though they came 5th eventually. They were top 4 until the last game week. So yeah, good signs for Leicester. Villa beating Sheffield United this morning. Red card early for Sheffield made it tough for them, especially with the brand of football they play. Very part the bus, but credit to Villa. I think Jack Grealish is finding his own, and with Jack Grealish finding his own, and I think Villa deserved to win that game. Completely dominated from the opening minutes. And the last game this morning, Wolves versus Manchester City. Man City, pretty solid performance for them, 3-1. Not much. Pretty stock standard game for them. The De Bruyne still played well, coming back, and goals from Sterling, Foden, not Sterling, so Jesus, Foden, and De Bruyne obviously sinking that penalty. I think it's great signs for Wolves, and for Man City, and I think Wolves, again, first game of the season, you can't say much, but Jimenez on the score sheet again, which is always good for Wolves. In terms of the table, currently Leicester, Arsenal, Everton, and Palace all on 6 points, and West Brom, Southampton, and Fulham all down the bottom. In terms of my table predictions, I think it's going to be up the top. I'm going to say Man City. Then I'm going to go with a bold prediction. I'm going to say Arsenal are going to finish second this year. So Man City won. I think they're going to be too strong this year again. And I think they're just going to... the disappointment they had last year, especially, they had a lot of chances to win games last year and put pressure on Liverpool, and they really didn't. So I think Man City is going to finish first. Big prediction, Arsenal second. I think they're playing fantastic football. I think Aubameyang and Lacazette, their combination is paying off well, and I think all the other players are kind of stepping up. I think Ceballos, I'm a big fan of Ceballos. I love Ceballos. I think he's going to have his breakout season. And I think Arsenal is my prediction to finish second. I'm going to say Liverpool are going to finish third, just based on their form last year and who they have. I think it's going to be tough to win many games against Liverpool. Big game next week, Liverpool versus Arsenal. I think we're going to see Arsenal start to come to their own from there. So, yeah, Liverpool third. Chelsea, I'm going to say finish fourth. New signings, Werner, Havertz, and Ziyech. I think once they all start playing football and they all get in the team week in, week out and can't experience the Premier League football, I think they'll start to click, and I think Chelsea will really threaten up top this season. I'm going to say Tottenham to finish fifth. I think the signing Gareth Bale is absolutely massive for them. I think Gareth Bale could even bring them to top four if he really has a really good season. I think Gareth Bale is probably the missing piece in Spurs, and I think with Son and Harry Kane, if they go back to good form, I think they can really put a great performance in this season. For me, sixth, I'm going to go Manchester United. I might have had them high, but I think they're going to disappoint again, especially maybe after that Palace result. But again, that doesn't really mean much. But I think, they're gonna show promise, but they're not gonna deliver similar to the seasons they've had before. And I think they finished sixth is the prediction I'm going for. To finish seventh, I'm going to go Wolves to finish seventh. No, sorry, not Wolves. I'm going Everton to finish seventh. James Rodriguez with his with the signing of James Rodriguez, I think he's a world-class player, and I think he can really bring Everton out of that kind of slump where they've been mid-table and try really push for that European spot. Then I have Wolves in eighth, and then Leicester in ninth. I think that's pretty interchangeable, those three. Even those four with Manchester United, I think they're pretty interchangeable in terms of what they're going to do this season. So Leicester in at 9th. I'm going to go Newcastle in at 10th. I think Callum Wilson and some of the signings they've had with St. Maxim is obviously there last season. But I think Newcastle, they put a few good games together. I think they're on for a great season. Newcastle 10th. I think I'm going to say Leeds are going to finish 11th. Crystal Palace to finish 12th. And I'm going to say... It's very hard. I think West Ham will stay up this season. They showed a lot of promise, especially that new striker they have. Scored a few in pre-season. Can't remember his name. Bowen. Bowen off the right side. I think he's going to be stand out for them and probably keep them up this year, I'd say. So recap so far: City first, Arsenal second, Liverpool third, Chelsea fourth, Tottenham fifth, United sixth, Everton seventh, Wolves 8th, Leicester 9th, Newcastle 10th, Leeds 11th, Crystal Palace 12th, West Ham 13th. So that 14th spot, I think Sheffield United. I think they're going to have a below par season compared to last year, but they'll still stay up. Aston Villa 15th. I think Southampton stay up. Southampton 16th. I think two of them are going down again. I think Fulham and West Brom go back down. So that means I think Brighton should stay up, and that means I think Burnley will go down. So Brighton, that's 17th spot. Burnley 18th, 19th, Fulham, and last West Brom. So that should be on the screen, but yeah, it's many of that bottom 5 or 6 is going to be very interchangeable. Be tough to tell, but yeah, I think the big movers are going to be Tottenham, Arsenal, Everton in terms of places from last year. I think Arsenal are really going to be have a standout season this season, and my prediction for how many managers will keep their job at the beginning of the year, from who started the year to at the end of the year, I think 4 managers will lose their job at the end of the year, and not sure which teams it's going to be, but I'm predicting one of those teams, it's going to be the top 6 teams. One of those managers are going to lose their job this season. That's pretty much my prediction. And that also wraps up the podcast for today. Thanks for listening for the Dose Sports. Please like and subscribe and follow if you're listening on Spotify. And I'll see you guys next week. Thank you.